All right, next problem. So what we read on the screen, that the objective is we're trying to figure out what the total weight in pounds is. Again, one more time. What is the total weight in pounds? So not only do we have to find the grand total in terms of the weight, we got to convert it into pounds. So when we check out the information that we have, my party people, we see that it says that we have this pantry that stores 3 dozen cans, and each can weighs 10 ounces. And so we want to turn that weight at the end, we want to turn that into pounds. So we have 3 dozen cans right over here. So 3 dozen cans. Everybody, how many is 3 dozen? Help me out there. Yeah, it's going to be 36 because remember, every dozen is 12. So we do 3 times 12, and that's going to give us 36 cans. We're not looking for the number of cans. We're looking for the weight of all of these cans together. So what we have right over here is, well, each can weighs 10 ounces. So because each can weighs 10 ounces, we're going to multiply that right there. 10 ounces. And so when we do that, everybody, how many ounces total is this now? 36 cans, 10 ounces each. Multiply that together. Yeah, that's going to give us 360 ounces. Right on, right there. Perfect. So now that we're here, now that we have the total weight right here, we can mark that. That is our total weight. We can be happy about where we've gotten, but we still have a little bit to go because the last step is going to be that conversion. We have to turn the ounces into pounds. We got to turn that into pounds. And the way that we'll do that is going to be by dividing. The conversion that we're going to be using is 1 pound equals 16 ounces. And so because we are at ounces and we're trying to move to pounds, the unit with the 1 on it, we are going to divide. Again, to get to the unit with the singular 1, we divide to get down to the 1. So to do that, we have 360, and we will divide this 360. We'll divide it by the 16. So I'll show that long division here on the right side. We'll have 16 divided into 360. And let's get it going. My party people, how many times does 16 go into 3? Well, it doesn't. How many times does 16 go into 36? 16 goes into 36 twice. That's right. So we will put a 2 down right there because 16 multiplied by 2 is 32. And so we have 4 left over. Now from here, we're going to drop that 0. One more time, everybody. How many times does 16 go into 40? That's going to be 2 again. So we have 2 because that's going to be 32. So let me just write that properly. Booyah right there. So we have that subtraction of 32 giving us 8 left over. But before we even continue doing any work, everybody, take a look. We have 22, and then we're about to have a decimal. But everybody, which answer here begins with 22 and also has a decimal? Yeah, look at that right there. We can tell what the final answer is, right? We can tell by looking at that what the final answer is. But let's continue the calculation to just make sure that we know what it is. So we'll have that 0 that just appears because remember, after a decimal, you have an infinite number of zeros just sitting there. So we'll drop that 0 right over here to get to 80. My party people, how many times does 16 go into 80? That's going to be 5 times. That is correct. 16 times 5 is 8. And I'll prove that right over here before I continue. There's 16 multiplied by 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 1 times 5 is 5. Carry the 3 is 8. So that's the 80. So that's going to be 22.5 with a clean final division right there. And there we go. It's going to be 22.5 pounds. That is the final calculation with our conversion, making the correct answer for this problem C. All right, taking a look at the next word problem here. The next word problem says, what percent of the run did the runner finish? Okay, so what percent of the run did the runner finish? Sounds good. So what percent? That's what we're looking for. And then we want to know the percent that represents how much was finished. Okay, blank percent finished. All right, sounds good. So let's take a look at the other information that's there. And it says a runner completes 18 miles of a planned 30-mile challenge. Okay, so 18 miles are complete or finished. And then 30 miles is the total. So 30 miles total. So if we're setting up our equation for our percentage here, it is blank percent times the total of 30 miles equals what we finished. Again, because this percent represents what was finished right there. So what we have to represent as the result is the amount that was finished. And that is represented by the 18 miles that we've completed. So that's really the hardest part. Before we get to the calculation, obviously, but that's the hardest part. Just making sure you can contextualize what you see. So now that we've contextualized it, now we can move forward to solving. So I'll just put an X for that percent. And so what we have is 30 times X equals 18. And so we just have to get rid of everything around the X. And to get rid of the 30, we're doing the opposite operation, which is going to be division. We'll divide both sides by the 30, canceling out on the left, and we're going to have X equals whatever that's going to be. So let's do the long division. Let's get there. And that'll be 30 dividing into 18. Zooming in, we see that we have 30 can't go into 1. 30 can't go into 18. So this is where I'm going to use a decimal. And then those zeros that are always there, but we don't write them down, we're going to put that there. So to do this, now we ask ourselves, well, 30 can't go into 1 or 18. How many times does 30 go into 180? And that's going to be 6. Yeah, exactly. That's going to be 6. So we have that right there, and we're done. That's it. Subtract 180, no remainder, we're good. And so we have X equals 0.6. However, everybody, what's the problem? We finished the calculation, but the problem is that, remember that percentages show up as decimals. Percentages show up as decimals. And so because of that, we have to turn it back into a percent. And it's always going to be how many times, everybody? Always going to be how many times? Twice, exactly. So we're going to take 0.6, move that decimal place over twice. 1, 2. So there's that 0 right there. So it'll end up being 60%. So completing the 18 miles out of the 30-mile journey means that you are 60% complete. And there we are. If you would have gotten answer choice D, that would have been because perhaps we divided 30 by 18 and not 18 by 30. Notice how it matters. Your setup and your solution, it really does.